Hi, my name is Amiel, and today I'm going to be installing some Firestone Riderite airbags into my 2008 Tacoma. Alright, let's see what I got in the box. It's an airbag kit for my Tacoma, or at least most of it. I picked this up off of Classifieds for like $100. It's an okay deal. Most of it's here, but most of it's crusty. Unfortunately, there's one bracket missing, and that's the one that goes from here up to here. I'm gonna have to make something like that, or maybe I can get one from the original manufacturer. Yeah, the bolts are a little crusty, but yeah, I can work with that. Alright, here we are over at the cleaning bench. Just got a mixture of some soap and water in here. So you might be asking yourself, why would you buy these rusty pieces? Well, in Canada, everything is rusty if it's attached to a truck. And honestly, I don't think these are as bad as they look. Plus, they were cheap. Very cheap. Therefore, it's worth the pain and heartache. Also, I am my own worst enemy. I like to make things difficult for myself, apparently. Before I can bolt these in, this needs to be cut off. So this part is supposed to sit on top of the axle, whereas this part sits on top of the leaf spring. I guess the previous owner had some lift blocks or something installed on his truck, so they've added this little bit of metal. I measured this, and it looks like my leaf packs are a little bit thicker than what these brackets were designed for, so I would have been modifying this anyways, even if I bought new. So conveniently, I can save this piece and just relocate it up a little bit, and we'll be good. So I'm going to cut this off, and we'll go from there. Cool. So the idea is this is going to get welded on probably like that, roughly. I'd like to take this airbag off of this bracket, and I'd also like to replace these air fittings. I've ordered replacement air fittings along with some replacement air hose, and I've got some new nuts on the way. I tried to break these loose, but they don't really want to go, and I'm scared that I'll snap the tube bolt or whatever at the top of the airbag, and that would suck. That would make this whole thing useless. So what I'm going to try to do is cut the nut and split it so that I can take it apart. So I've cut two slots on each side. And I've cut most of the material off of the nut, so I'm hoping I can just crack it. Victory is mine. That's loose. It's not quite that loose, I guess, but it's loose. Ta-da! This stud is hollow, and the air fitting screws into it. So had I just tried torquing that to get that nut off, if I would have snapped that, this would all have been junk. So this has a couple little nicks in it from the angle grinder, but it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. So that'll make this bracket a bit easier to clean up, and I have to make that extra bracket, so this will make it a lot easier to do that. So now to do the same thing all over again. I'm gonna wire wheel the paint and rust off these parts and get them ready for paint. Ta-da! Before I can put any of this in the truck, I still have to make the missing brackets. I got some simple bar stock, and I'm going to use this to build the pieces that I need. And this is that piece of bar stuff. My idea is I'll cut 2 little tabs that'll bolt onto these holes. It'll be, I don't know, maybe about that big. I'm going to bend a piece into a U shape that will bolt to the frame rail. I'll bolt the U piece into the truck. We'll bolt this in, and then I'm going to take the 3rd piece and clamp it to this little piece and to this little piece. And then I'll take the whole thing out of the truck and weld it together. But before I cut this bar stock into pieces, I think I should drill it. Piece of note paper, my little tab, 2 holes. They're going to be 800 thou apart, and then five eighths. There we go. And the diameter of these holes, so those are about 390 thou. Set this to 5/8 of an inch, and we'll just scratch a line. And from the other side. Okay, here we are at the drill press. Just going to drill a pilot hole first. A little bit of cutting oil in here. That's 2. Perfect. Mounting holes. So I think what I'm going to do is mark out and drill all the holes that I need, and then just cut my parts out. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do. Then I don't have to handle really, really tiny parts. So I tried to bend this. That's not happening for me. Instead of bending this, I'm just going to weld it. Since I'm going to be welding that anyway, why not skip the bending altogether? So I'm going to cut a piece of this bar, this length, and I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch hole in the center, and that's going to get bolted to the frame. Pretty warm, but I cut and ground this angle with all 4 parts clamped together so they would all be the same. They're not going to be exact, but close enough for our purposes. See if I can burn myself with this. So that piece is going to get bolted onto the frame. And these are going to get welded on, one there and one there. And then once I've figured out the exact position, going to be something like that, and that's going to join the frame down to that bracket. This one. Like that. This is going to go up here in the frame, something like that. This length I don't really care about. I'm going to set that when I clamp this all together. Onwards and upwards. way this works is pretty simple. This part, now it's like that, and this clamp kind of pinches the whole thing together. So the bracket that I need to make ties into this hole on the other side. So here you can see what I'm talking about. My little metal tabs are going to bolt on here and come up, and that's the rectangle hole there. That's the hole that I need to bolt to. It's really tight in here. I can barely fit in here, let alone bring a camera with me. So I've got my U-piece bolted in the frame. It's not tight, so there's a little bit of room to wiggle it around. And this is kind of the same thing, kind of loose a little bit. So I've got these tabs bolted on. So the way this works in my head is I'll go up like that, and then with a couple vice grips, that might not work. It's one vice grip. Yeah, this is about as awkward as it seems. Something like that. So now, this is perfectly adjusted to this other bracket. Now, assuming that the vice grips don't fall off when I take this out, we should be good to go. That's a big assumption, I think. Okay. Now, it's just this one left. Victory is mine. I did it. That's what the piece looks like. I just gotta weld it together and do the same thing all over on the other side. So I'm going to throw a couple tacks on here and test fit it again in the truck to make sure nothing moved. And then I'm going to weld it solid. I will trim this up a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. But that'll be after I get it welded nice.